Good day, students. Welcome back. My name is Michelle Walker Wade. I am your online instructor for the Career Explorations course. And at this point, we should have gone through together the entire part one of the Career Explorations course, which would have been to explore careers and career pathways. And by now, you should have completed a career exploration project, and hopefully you used in your project a job that you would really, really want to apply for, because next, in this part of the course, which is part two, we are going to walk through how to prepare and how to prepare to apply and interview for a job. And you'll be able to use the job that you researched or the job ad that you got from your research to do this part of the project, to do this part of the lesson. So, in part two, we're going to discuss how you can successfully navigate through the 9 steps of the job application process. So, we're going to talk about what those 9 steps are. We're also going to explore topics such as career fairs, networking events, employment tests, and more. At the end of part two will be made up of several lessons, but at the end of part two, you will turn in or participate in 2 projects again, like you did on part one. One project you'll work on throughout part two will be an updated and targeted resume. So if you already have a resume, you kind of got a head start on people who don't have a resume, because at the end you're going to turn in your before and after resumes along with your job ad. And we'll talk more about that as we move along in this section of the course. So you're going to turn those in. You're also going to have an appointment with either a career advisor or a program manager who will critique your resume, and then we'll look to see some of the information that you learned from the resume critique, and we'll look to see how you have used that information in creating your new resume. Another project you'll complete as a part of part two of the career explorations course is you will prepare to participate in a interview. It will be, of course, the same. You'll be preparing to interview for the same job that you were creating the resume for, and which hopefully will be one of the same jobs that you found during the project for part one. Now, if you don't like the job you found during part one, and it isn't one that you would like to do part two, use for part two, that's okay. You'll just need to find another job that you would actually apply for. Okay. So the second project will be to prepare, and we'll talk about what it means and the steps you go through to prepare for an interview. And then you will participate in a mock interview. And that mock interview will be with a career advisor or a program manager. So let's look at the 9 basic steps of the application process. Now, while I'm going over these 9 steps here on this using this PowerPoint presentation, you also have access to access to the source of this material in your reading packet, and there's also a link to the online website where the information came from in the learning portal online. Okay, so you can just click that link and go to the website. Now, there are pluses and minuses of just using the written packet of paper. Let me show you before we get started so you know. So here's the written. Okay, so this is what you should have. Okay, and this is in your packet. But you see how there's links here? It won't look like a link on your written packet, but this is actually a link. And all throughout the article, there are links that you can click on so that you can learn more about each of these topics. And that's just to help you prepare better for the job and to do a better job on this project. So if you were to only use the paper copy of the project, you don't get to click on these links. But if you go to the website, let's see here. If you go to the website, you see you can click on those links. So for example, um, right here, I'll look under job application screening. If you want to know more about this, where it says companies often use talent management software known as application tracking, if you wanted to know more about what is application tracking, if you're using the reading from online, you can just click on it and go to the new another page and read the article on how employers use tracking systems. And even from there, you have even more links that you can click on. So it just gives you a chance to um, get more out of this subject and get more out of the activities you'll be doing in these lessons. And they're to your own benefit because they will help you um, get a better job, which is something most of us are hoping to do. Okay, so let's go back over to the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so the 9 steps. Now listen, your first lesson, your first activity will be to talk about some of these 9 steps, and the questions that you'll get will come from the video, and some will come from the reading. So just so you know, that is the first activity. Okay, so the 9 steps are: number 1, you're going to prepare your resume, and we're talking about resumes for specific jobs. So we're not talking about general resumes. Uh, for the most part, you should not think that you can have one resume that will fit every job application. You will have to customize. In many cases, you will need to be able to customize your resume for that job, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the coming lessons. We'll talk briefly about cover letters for a specific job again. Okay, there is no one size fits all cover letter. All cover letters and resumes have the same components, but the information in them is different. So, of the 9 basic steps of the job application process, preparing the resume is first, writing the cover letter is second, third is apply for the job. Now, when you apply for the job, you're going to follow the instructions that are provided in the advertisement. Fourth, after you've applied for the job and submitted everything, your resume will be screened and reviewed by the hiring organization. Next, you may be required to take employment tests. After that, you want to prepare prepare for and participate in the job interview. Then, if you are the selected candidate, you will participate in the hiring process. So we've moved from the application process to the hiring process. Then you will consider the job offer, and then you'll respond to it. Okay. And ninth, you will participate in the new hire onboarding. So those are the 9 basic steps of a job application process. Now let's break them down a little bit more. Okay, getting your resume ready. Your resume has to be organized well. It needs to look good. It needs to match the job that you're applying for. So not just, like I said, not just one size fits all resume. The resumes from one job to the next may be very similar, but there will be some things on them that are a little bit different, and we'll talk about what those are as we move along. You can use a template to help you format your resume correctly. And as we move forward, you'll see some templates that you could just download and use directly into Microsoft Word. And I'll also show you a video if you don't like the templates that are available, one where you can format your own resume. And the next thing about your resume is, depending on your career path and industry, you may also consider creating a visual resume. Now, visual resumes have more design to them. They may have colors and pictures and art. And it really depends on what industry you are going into. Some industries like marketing, education, um, really like to see things visually, but other industries aren't so concerned about a visual resume. What's more important is the content. Either way, whether you're using a visual resume, and we'll put some examples in the group, whether you're using a visual resume or one that is just plain text, like the one you see here in this picture, the content and the information that you put on the resume is very important. You want to make sure that that resume not only tells the roles and the jobs that you've done, but also allows the employer to see what kind of person and what kind of employee you will be, what your work ethics are like, how strong are your soft skills. And we'll talk about that a little bit in the coming lesson. Okay, so cover letter. You're going to write a cover letter. Now, I'm saying always include a cover letter unless the job ad asks you not to. If the job ad says do not send a cover letter, or if the job ad says send a letter of interest, a cover letter and a letter of interest are a little bit different. Whatever the job ad asks for, do that. If the job ad does not say do not send a cover letter, you should send a cover letter. So sometimes a job ad will say send a resume and cover letter. That's clear, you need to send both. But sometimes the job ad will just say send resume. In that case, you'll generally send the resume and the cover letter. However, like I said, if the job ad says send resume, do not send cover letter, then don't send a cover letter. All right. Make sure that your cover letter is tailored to the specific job listing. We'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. And make sure the cover letter enhances the details on your resume, but does not duplicate it. You don't want to have a cover letter that just says everything that you already said on your resume. It should enhance your resume. It may explain some gaps in times. It may You may include on the cover letter why you're interested in that job. If your resume may not show you as a good fit for the job, you can use the cover letter to explain why that job is a good fit for you, or why you are a good fit for that company. So you can use the resume in different ways like that, but it should not just be duplicating everything that you just put on your cover letter. I have seen it happen, and it's not a good thing. All right. Okay. Step number 3 is the job application. Now, be sure to follow the company's specific directions for filling out the application. Read the application instructions carefully and then follow them. It's okay to do more, but it's not okay to do less. Now, what you'll see on job ads, they'll tell you what things they want you to include in your resume or with the job application. Sometimes you'll fill out an application that looks like the one in this image. This is a paper application. There's not too many places where you'll go now and actually fill out a paper application. Most applications are online, but they're collecting the same information, but you're just submitting it online. But that job application instructions may say fill out the application and send your resume and send some letters of verification and send copies of if you have some kind of credential, send a copy of your credential. Whatever that job application process says, make sure you do all of them. Do not skip a part. Let's say you do skip a part and you have some reason, you'll need to explain that in your cover letter as to why you did not completely follow the directions on the application process. But in most cases, there's no real reason to not provide the employer with what they are asking. I can tell you from my personal experience, one of the things I include in a job ad when I have an open position, I generally ask people to send me, do the online application, to send me a copy of their resume, to send me a letter explaining why they're interested in that job. So it's similar to a cover letter, but I specifically want to know in the cover letter why you are interested in this job. And then I ask people to send the link to, I also ask them to send a copy of their the credential that's required for the jobs that I'm filling. They need a credential, so I ask them to send a copy of that. And then I ask them to provide me a link to their public LinkedIn profile. This lets them know that I am looking. I do this for two reasons. It lets them know I am going to look at your public LinkedIn profile. So all applicants are being treated the same way in terms of their public LinkedIn profile. Your public LinkedIn profile, you can set the permissions for what a person can see on your public LinkedIn settings. So if you don't want them to see lots of stuff, you can set it so they don't see a lot of things. If you want someone who you're not personally connected with on LinkedIn to see everything, you can set it for that purpose too. Now, some people don't like the fact that I'm asking for their public LinkedIn profile. I do this for two reasons. Number one, I'm in the career education field. And LinkedIn is a very important part of advancing careers. So I want people who work with me, who work on my team, to be keeping up with the trends when it comes to what people need for careers. If someone's working on my team and they don't have a LinkedIn profile, or they're not keeping up with what's going on in employment trends, it will be more challenging for them to help our students, or the people who are our customers. So that's one reason why I like for people I'm hiring to have a LinkedIn profile. It's not a deal breaker, but it is something that I put straight out there. And so if you happen to be applying for a job, just know that whether the employer asks for your LinkedIn profile or not, they're most likely looking at it. So you should have one. And that's something we'll talk about a little bit in the coming lessons. All right. Number 4, the job screening application, the job application screening. Once you have submitted your job application and all the materials, and you've satisfied successfully submitting everything that the ad has asked for, next is the job application screening. Most companies use, or many companies use, a application applicant tracking software in order to screen or review, take that first look at resumes. Oftentimes when you submit a resume, especially to larger companies, a human is not the first person to look at that resume. A job tracking system or application tracking software will be what reviews that application. So once you submit it, the application tracking software scans that application or the words on your resume to see if you are using the same keywords that they're looking for. So on the employer side, they have set the application software system to look for certain words in your resume. So those words are, the scanning system is looking for those words, it's looking for how many times you use them. It can be, and it's a variety of words. You, as the job applicant, do not know exactly which words they're looking for. Your best um, chance of knowing what words they'll be looking for in the application is in the job ad. So this is why I say your resume and your job application and your resume should be targeted to the job ad, because if they're using a job application tracking software, that software is looking for keywords. And if those keywords are not on your resume, you probably won't be pulled in for interview. Okay, because in this case, the candidates who has the closest matched will be interviewed, and it's a lot of times it's just based on keywords. Now, I'm missing a step here, because what will happen often, the application tracking system will do the initial scan through the resumes looking for those keywords. So let's say, for example, 100 people apply for a job. The application tracking system may get that down, may get that stack of 100 resumes down to the top 30. I'm just using numbers for example. Then a human will get those top 30 applicants and will do the next part of the application survey, the application assessment, to the application review to determine who then will be called in for the next step in the job application process. Right. So you want to make sure that you are ready for an application tracking system. The employment test. Not all employers do this, but many do. So we want to count this as a potential step in the application process, is that you will be asked to take employment tests. There are many different types of employment tests, and here are some of them. Aptitude tests measure your problem solving ability, your critical thinking. They look just for the way that you work. Who are you and how do you work? How do you handle situations that are unexpected? How do you handle situations that you don't quite know, but you can kind of figure them out? An aptitude test will look to see, if we give you something to do and it isn't quite what you expected, how will you respond to that? So that's what an aptitude test will test you for. Then some will give a personality test. Personality tests look to see what kind of person you are and how you behave. How do you respond? They just want to see if, in this case, they want to see if you're a good fit for the team. They want to know if you're a good fit for the culture of the organization. So it's not just enough to have the skills that are needed for the job. You also need to be a good fit for the team and for the company. And so that's something that personality test and aptitude test will look for. Okay, then there's skills test. And in this case, they're wanting to see if the things that you said you could do on your resume and on your job application are they things you really can do. So for example, if you say you are an Microsoft Excel expert, and this particular job requires you to be able to use Microsoft Excel, you may very likely be given a skills test to see how well you perform in Microsoft Excel. Skills tests come in many varieties. There's skills tests for all of the computer skills: Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, which was Microsoft Outlook, which is the email system that a lot of companies are using. So they want to know, can you use Outlook? Um, if in any other thing you're going for, there's some skills tests include math tests. If they feel like if this job needs you to be able to do basic math very well, you may have a math test. Okay, so skills tests come in a variety, come for a variety of different work activities. Then other tests you may be given. Now, these last three tests are ones that you may be given after you get past um, the at least the first interview. But medical examinations and drug tests, credit checks, and not all jobs can do credit checks. It depends, only certain jobs. And the employer must notify you in writing before conducting a credit check. So if you're working in banking, you might get a credit check test. Might have to do a credit check. Not all jobs, again, require or even allow. It's against the law for many roles, for many jobs, for employers to require a credit check. Um, and then there are background checks. Background checks are very common where employers are looking to see what's in your criminal history. Those are very, very common. So you want to be ready for those. Those are employment tests. Okay, and number 6 is the interview process. Now, again, I told you in step 5, those first 3 tests would may happen before those first 3 tests, which is the skills test, the aptitude test, the personality test. Those may happen before the interview, but not necessarily. So 5 and 6 aren't necessarily in order. Every company is a little bit different. Um, some companies don't want you to have the test until they've met you in person. And some don't want to meet you in person or even over the phone for an interview or even uh, through virtual interviews through things like Zoom and Skype. Um, they may not give you the test until they've interviewed you. So it varies. So don't look at these 2 steps as if they're going to happen in order. All right. So the interview process is an invitation for you to actually talk to either the recruiter or the hiring manager or the employer. If you're talking to the recruiter, you probably have 2 or 3 more interviews before you get hired. Okay, so the recruiter will meet with you and just kind of do the first level of conversation to see if they want to present you to the hiring manager. You want to make a good impression on the recruiter because the recruiter holds the key to you getting to the hiring manager. Okay, so it's an invitation to talk to the recruiter, the hiring manager, or the employer. This interview can happen on the phone, and many, many more interviews, at least the first interviews, are happening on the phone or via online Zoom or Skype or something like that. So it could be on the phone, it could be in person, it could be online. Any of these interviews could be this way. Okay, and then next, you may have multiple interviews with different people. So you'll meet with this person today, you may meet with a team of people the next time. I've been on interviews where I met with um, the management, the recruiter, then the management, and then the people who would be my coworkers. And the people who would be your coworkers in this case, in this particular case, had just as much say as the manager because the coworkers are the ones who are filling you out to see if you'll be a good fit for the team. All right. So all of these steps in the interview process, don't take any of them lightly. Never think that you have made it this far so that you've got the cat by the tail. You may not have the cat by the tail. Every step along the way in this job application process, you want to be putting your best person forward, your best step out there. Don't relax until, I was going to say, don't relax until you have the job. Don't even relax after you have the job. Stay on your P's and Q's. All right. All right. So, like I said, some of interviews are one on one and some are with a small group. That's step 6 of the interview process, of the job application process. And then 9 is the hiring process. So let's say you've gone through all the tests, you did the resumes, the job application system, you've taken the test, you've made it through the interviews, and then um, employers decide to hire you. This is where those other tests that I talked about may come into play. Those other tests, the background check, the credit check, and the drug testing, those are a part of the hiring process. Then the checking of your references, if they ask for references. It used to be back in the day, you would always put your references on your resume. Nowadays, you don't put your references on your resume. When the employer asks for those references is when you give them. Do not give those references before the employer asks, because if you give them, let's say you state them on your resume or in your cover letter, you've also given that employer the right to go and look at those references before they even meet you or talk to you. So don't provide those references until you are asked for them. And with your references, make sure they are professional references, people who you have worked with. People, it could, even if you don't have enough professional references, you can use your teachers for a reference. But make sure you ask the person first that if you can use them for for a reference for a job, and then that person will also provide you with the preferred contact information for the employer. Never use a person for a reference who you have not talked to. So they are expecting a phone call or they're expecting an email from this employer. They should know it's coming. Okay, and again, they should be professional. Do not use your mother. Do not use your sister. Do not use your brother. Let's say you happen to work for your uncle in a real legitimate employee-employer relationship, and your uncle just happened to be your supervisor or your manager. Then yeah, you'll use that uncle, but you won't state that it's your uncle, and your uncle will most likely know not to tell the employer that he's your uncle. But you do want to always use professional references. All right. Another part of the hiring process is they may come back and ask you additional follow-up questions. And this is also something that's common. After the interview, the 1, 2, or 3 interviews, they may have more questions. All right. As long as the door is open, as long as they're having conversations with you, you are still in the running. So it's still a good thing. But again, don't get comfy just yet. Okay. And 8th, the job offer. You will receive a job offer when you're close to the end of the process. You do not need to accept this job offer right away. They call you on the phone. Hello, Mr. Jones. We're so excited. We'd like to offer you this position as XYZ with our company. Would you accept this job offer? You do not need to accept it right away. You can, but you don't have to. You could take a day or two to evaluate the offer and make sure you're okay with what they're offering you. You really want the job. You're okay with the pay. Um, this might be a place where when they offer you the job, if you have some more questions of clarification, if you want to clarify again, what is the salary or what is the rate of pay? Um, does it, if there anything that you need to clarify, any questions you have about the job, the schedule, whatever it is, this is where you have one more chance to ask and make sure you are okay with what is being offered to you and you are accepting it as it is offered. What you do not want to do is accept the job and then call back tomorrow and say, you know what, I really don't want it for whatever reason, or I can't do it. I thought I could do it, but I realized that I've got to take my kids to school at the same time. No, you want to know this and think about this before you accept the job. Because if you say yes today and then call back tomorrow, you will not have a chance. You may not have a chance to get that job back again if your situation changes or whatever the case. But if they offer you the job today, you can say, "Can I call you tomorrow? I just need to evaluate the job offer and make sure it's the right fit." Now, when you do that, if it's something where they really need to hire right now, you could be taking a chance that when you call back tomorrow, the job's not available. That's rare, but it's possible. All right. But it's worse for you to take the job and then call tomorrow and give the job back because now they may never even look at you for employment. They may do what's called an HR DQ or disqualify you from applying for a job with their company for 60 to 90 days or forever. They'll just mark you in their system as DQ, disqualified. The DQ, again, it may be a temporary DQ or it may be a permanent DQ. But you don't want to take a chance on getting DQ just because you accepted a job today and then tomorrow said, you know what, it's not the right fit. You don't want to show that type of indecisiveness. So take a chance, take time if you need to evaluate. All right. And then once you have accepted the job, you've accepted the job offer. Now you're going to do the rest of the new hire work. So there's new hire paperwork, which could include a new hire orientation, could include eligibility to work forms like your I-9s. Make sure you are actually eligible to work in the United States, in the United States or whatever country you're looking at this video from, just to make sure you're legally able to work. You'll turn in your social security cards and other things, your ID, everything that they need so that they can actually get you up and running in their system. You'll do your income tax withholding forms. You'll fill out your benefits forms if the job offers medical or any other kind of health benefits. You'll fill them out now, and any other company specific paperwork. This is the thing you need to know. They've given you a job offer, you've accepted the job offer. Now you're doing the new hire paperwork and the new hire orientation. It's not too late for that employer to DQ or disqualify you. I've seen this happen. People get to this point of the employment process and they think they're in and they start relaxing. They think they're in and they start doing things like being on their cell phone when they shouldn't be, coming to work smelling of marijuana. Even though marijuana is legal in the state of California, the employer that may not shine upon you coming to work smelling like marijuana. So don't start now. Like I said, you are still in the hiring process. So stay vigilant, stay prudent, stay on your P's and Q's, even while you're going through the new hire orientation. Even if the new hire orientation is a paid orientation, do not get comfortable. Stay on your P's and Q's. Stay making the employer know and see that you are a good fit for their job and their company and for their work team. All right. You want to stay there. All right. So those are the 9 steps of the job application process. All right. So in our coming work, we're going to talk about resumes. I told you at the beginning of this video of the project you're going to work on, you're going to work on creating or updating an existing resume. Any way you look at it, you're going to have to turn into resumes. So if you already have one that you're going to update, you've got half the work done already. So you're going to turn in the first one. You're going to have a critiquing session, and then you're going to turn in your final. You're going to turn in both, okay? If you don't have a resume, you've got to create a resume, have your critiquing session, and then update that resume and turn in both. The screen here says you're going to write a cover letter for a specific job, which you will do, but it won't be a part of your project. And we're not really going to focus so much on the cover letter, and I'll explain to you why in the coming lesson. So this may not be something that you actually have to do, the cover letter, but it is something that we'll cover briefly. And then the second thing that you will definitely do is prepare for an interview by doing the homework and discussing interview questions with your advisor, and then you will do a mock interview. All right, so that's what is to come in part 2 of the Career Explorations course. And I will see you at the next lesson, which we will focus on resumes. All right, now, before you go on to the next lesson, make sure you do the activities, which is basically answering questions based on this video lecture and the reading. Again, you can go to the website, or you can use your hard copy, paper copy in your reading packet. Make sure you can answer those questions. All right. Thank you, and I will see you on the next lesson.